I'm your host, Biko, and on the line, I have a reporter with WBEZ known as Linda Lutton. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I see you at the office. You know, I missed the office. I haven't been there since like March. So how was it for you with the office being so empty, but, you being there?
It is, well, I'm grateful that I am able to work here and I do feel safe because our newsroom is like about the size of like a football field, I feel like, if you count everything. And it's me and like one other reporter in here and our host. From time to time, we get a host in here. So that's about it. I mean, otherwise you have an entire radio station working from home. So it's been helpful to me because I have a small apartment and a lot of big kids in there, and they appreciate it and I appreciate it. So let's put it like that.
That's funny.
Huh.
Earlier this year, in general, I've been reporting on a lot of big stories that's been breaking through WBZ. And I've been reporting a lot of your stories as well. And, you've been doing an incredible job with, getting information out there and doing what you do on the reporting side. With this pandemic taking place, how has that affected some of your reporting?
Well, it has affected me a lot personally. Like a lot of the ways I see stories is to be like out and moving around in the neighborhoods and talking to people. I mean, I almost always find one story from another story, but it's very limited now. We don't really go out for safety reasons. We try to just minimize the time that we're near anyone. I have done one indoor interview. I felt a little uncomfortable, but that is the way an alderman wanted to talk to me, and it was indoors. That's about it. We were still like a full room across from each other. I connected my long cord and stuck a little like tripod up over here by him. I was like on the far other end of the room. So I think it was okay. Ultimately, no one got sick. I hope the alderman didn't get sick. I didn't get sick. So but otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's tough because I also don't love social media. And that's really where I feel like a lot of stories are. It's where you kind of have to find stories right now because that's how people are communicating and talking to each other,
Yeah.
So I guess my tried and true ways that I find stories, which is being out in communities and talking to people in person, that's like not working for me right now. So.
And now that you say that, I'm interested in learning more about how you pretty much dabbled into getting details for your story on bank disinvestment. Like how did you put things together for that, especially with you not being on social media, but you getting down to the knit and grit and really getting details for the public? How was that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I would say that came about that we started working on that story long before the pandemic, months before the pandemic. So luckily all our in-person reporting was done for that. And that really started with, that's a collaboration between WBEZ and the City Bureau. And so it was a reporter there, Andrew Fan, that I worked with, and he had previously worked in the banking industry. And it was really his insight that he gained there and some questions he started asking himself about mortgage lending, about home purchase lending in the city and what that looked like. And it was really like Andrew Fan's sort of curiosity and smart analysis, I would say, that kicked this off. And then I guess, as a team, we all dug deeper. And we dug deeper for, human stories. We dug deeper and harder on the numbers. We checked and like double checked. So that's how that story came about.
I like hearing you say that. It really turned, at least from my standpoint, it was a very impactful story because I even remember, with you not being on social media like that, I can tell you when I put it out there, the response was amazing. Like people really dove into wanting to learn more about this disinvestment that, certain areas in Chicago was not receiving, which a lot of people already knew about the redlining, that's been taking place for years. And then when the report came out, I feel like it really struck more attention and the much needed attention because, when that happened, I started seeing protests at the JP Chase Morgan banks. I started seeing more and more protests. I started seeing more and more traction pick up. I mean, how do you feel about the impact of that reporting so far?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe just to like recap our big findings. I mean, we essentially found that for every dollar banks are lending in Chicago's white communities, they're lending like just 12 cents in Chicago's black neighborhoods, 13 cents in Latino communities. And there's about equal numbers of white, black, and Latino neighborhoods in Chicago. So you're talking about some very disparate lending. And I feel like the report really did resonate with people, maybe not because they sensed that it was like, oh, this was new. I actually think people in communities did understand this is what's happening, but I think that the significance of the report is that it spelled it out and it proved it with numbers that come directly from the federal government, that banks must report to the federal government. So it sort of verified what people sensed was happening, and it gave people in this realm, like people who work on housing or activists who care about disparate lending or care about investment in communities, and really that's, all Chicagoans should care about that. It gave people a way to talk about it and a way to point to hard facts that proved that what people sensed was in fact true. So yes, like right out of the reporting, we saw Jamal Green in particular really picked up with this reporting. I have to say I was a little surprised myself. I mean, it was an interesting thing for me as a reporter. Like, we had come out with a report and it had all these numbers, and we went, not only did we give the overall numbers, but we gave like bank by bank for our top lenders, which was some very new reporting. I don't think really anyone had a sense of that. And I don't even think the lenders themselves had looked at their lending in the way we looked at it. I think it was important for that reason. But, Jamal Green would be out there at, he was at like 35th and King Drive. There's a Chase branch. So he really targeted Chase initially, because Chase, we documented, was the bank among the big lenders that had the most racially disparate lending pattern. They were loaning 41 times more in white communities than they are in the black community. And this is not over 1 year, this is over a 7-year span. It's not during a recession, it's like in between two recessions, you could say. If what we're in right now is a recession, I'm not sure.
Yeah, same.
But it was 2012 through 2018, 7 years. Those are the good years. So if they're loaning 41 times more in the white neighborhoods in the good years, what do the bad years look like? Yeah, so Jamal Green picked up on that, and it's a strange experience to be out there. We published all these numbers, all these percentages and everything, and Jamal boiled it down to like a flyer, as a flyer, and he and his crew would pass that out on the street out there right on 35th and King Drive. And this was the summertime, they'd be shoving it in car windows. Everybody's got masks on. And, the number they used was 1.9%. The flyer that he gave out just said 1.9%. And then underneath it said, that's the percent of lending Chase has put in its own lending Chase has put in the black community in Chicago. And that comes right from our reporting. It was like seeing a radio report like get delivered in a whole different way
to reality.
It was like really, it was really interesting. So
it definitely went from broadcast to reality, and the effects was effective. I mean, as we see now, Chase has granted its biggest grant in Chicago history, if I'm not mistaken, with a $7.2 million grant to the west and south sides.
Yes, to a single project or a single entity, right? So they've agreed to give $7.2 million to the Resurrection Project and 6 other organizations. They're all going to be working on developing homeowners on the south and west sides. They have like 3 focus areas. So it's New City, back of the yards area is one. The other is North Lawndale on the west side. And on the southwest side, Chicago Lawn area is another one of their focus areas.
Look,
So
that comes from great reporting, and that comes from protest. It's amazing to see how these two stands to, you know, how they combine can really be impactful and make things happen. Even if, you know, even though it's a small start, a start is better than no start. So, you know, seeing that, I was extremely happy, and I'm from the North Lawndale area, so.
all right. Well, and one of the, I should point out, you know, that they're a far bigger commitment came about like that came in October, early October. Chase announced as part of a broad nationwide announcement of $30 billion commitment to try to do more to basically reduce the racial wealth gap. And they say fundamentally change their business practices to do that. And out of that 30 billion that they committed nationwide, Chicago is the only city that had a carve out there. And, you know, we asked Chase about that, and they pointed to activism here as the reason. That's activism around this reporting. So they gave a $600 million carve out. They say they are going to more than double the lending they do to African American and Latino families in Chicago specifically. So that was extremely significant.
And you answered the next question I was going to ask you, which was, you know, due to this reporting, you know, is that one of the prime reasons that Chase is, you know, doing what they can to reinvest and invest in the proper neighborhoods? And I'm happy to hear you say that, you know, it was part of the reporting and the activism.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, you look at the times that we're in and you look at the focus around racial justice, and I think you just see people looking harder at structures within society that require another look, right? And they require some changes. So, you know, I think mortgage lending is one of those areas where all the systems that we have, all the ways that we determine whether people should get a loan for a house or not in order to be able to buy a house, they are really steeped in a foundation that was completely discriminatory. No one disputes that it was discriminatory, and it's like we keep building on that discriminatory foundation, and we keep getting inequitable outcomes, and that's what we documented. So it's a system that almost, like I know one of the people we talked to in our original reporting said, you know, it's a system that, you know, it actually doesn't require anyone to overtly discriminate. It is itself discriminatory. So, you know, we documented whole neighborhoods, middle income Black neighborhoods that are seeing so few loans is really, you know, I think that is one of the contributions we made, is helping people understand just what the situation looks like here. I would say it's dire. I mean, we showed how in Chatham, for instance, two Chase branches in Chatham that have $80 million in deposits. That's largely that's the people who live there in Chatham or nearby. That's their money, $80 million. Yet Chase was giving out an average of 3 home loans per year in that extremely middle-class community, a historically middle-class community. So, yeah, that's the level that it went to. And then communities like Lawndale or other large parts of the West Side and the South Side, you know, it's like we know that buyers have to qualify, but I hope what we showed with this story was that really when it comes to buying a house or getting a loan on a home or a building, it's like the property has to qualify too. And that's where you have a whole swath of neighborhoods that will not qualify for a bank loan, at least a bank loan that regular people can get. So that's not about anything those people have done or whether they deserve or don't deserve a loan. You can have very qualified buyers, and you have, again, whole swaths of areas. That's part of the reason why we have the disinvestment we have. And I hope this story helped explain that, you know?
Yes, ma'am. I truly appreciate the amazing reporting you've been doing over the years, especially, you know, this year being a historical one. You continue to put the pedal to the metal and get things done and deliver much needed news to the community. And yet again, we had another story from you that did what it needed to do, and it brought positive change. Again, Linda, can you please let people know if they have stories, how they can reach out to you, since you don't use social media like that?
Yeah, I do. I don't want to say I'm not on social media. I am. I just don't enjoy hanging out there like all day. So yes, get me at Linda Lutton on Twitter, or find me on Facebook, Linda Lutton, or email, or that's old school, right? You can pick up the phone and call me any way you want. And I try to put, I like other reporters, try to put our details out there, and we appreciate it. Like, I always appreciate people calling, people saying, hey, you should really come and look at my block. I'm a neighborhoods reporter, so I can come out to your block and take a look at what's happening, and tie that into larger dynamics. And, we need that. I'm interested in all kinds of stories, big stories and small stories. So, and I really appreciate you, Biko, for like highlighting what we're doing and its relevance and putting that on Vocalo. I appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. Again, we appreciate all the hard work you all are doing. Like, you all are doing such critical work for the industry, for the city, for the community. And, why not spotlight that? And again, look at what it's doing. It's causing much needed change. So again, Linda,
we hope so, right? We hope so, because I'm gonna be watching that too, right? Because a promise is one thing, right? And what happens out of it, that's my job too, right?
Exactly. So I appreciate you. I thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to chop it up with me. And you enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thank you for the phenomenal reporting.
Hey, thank you, Biko.